Hi, I am absolutely infatuated with a certain type of game called hardcore tactical first-person shooters. Games like Gray Zone Warfare, Escape from Tarkov, DayZ, Body Cam are all examples of tactical hardcore first-person shooters. I guess you could throw Siege in there if you want. I don't. It's fun. I'm a fan. It's just I don't I don't put it in that area. Something about clearing long dark hallways and small cramped rooms and moving from area to area very slowly, very tactfully, very demure. One small mistake, one slight oversight, and you're dead. You have to start the level all over again. You have to start your character over from scratch with nothing except for the clothes on your back. Something about that just butters my egg roll. I don't know what it is. I absolutely love the high risk, high reward activities that these kinds of games can give to you. And there is one title in this subgenre of first person shooters that I absolutely adore. I love this game. I've played it since it's released in 2019. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Ready or Not. I'm going to give you two different definitions of what Ready or Not is. The first one is by Wikipedia, the actual kind of description of the game. And then from somebody who's played countless hours of this game, I'm going to explain it to you how I see it. So first, let's go to Wikipedia. In Ready or Not, the player leads an American police tactical unit within Los Sueños Police Department, or LSPD, against criminals and terrorists. The player deals with various types of situations such as robberies, mass shootings, sex trafficking, and drug busts. As a tactical shooter, realism is a central pillar of the gameplay, with both players and enemies being killed in only a few shots. Therefore, tactical strategies and careful planning is emphasized. Ready or Not is a 2023 tactical first-person shooter video game developed by Ireland-based Void Interactive and released from Microsoft Windows. Ready or Not follows the operations of a police SWAT team in the fictional American city of Los Sueños in the midst of a violent crime wave. The game was well received for its atmosphere and gameplay and has been considered a spiritual successor to the similar SWAT series by Sierra Entertainment. A lot of people who play Ready or Not compare it a lot to the original SWAT games from like the early 2010s or late 2000s. Amazing game series. I don't really see, they're both just tactical shooters that involve a SWAT team. That's pretty much all they got in common. But they're both really good, so I guess that's also something they have in common. That is what the box tells you the game is about. So from someone who's actually played a little bit of this game, a bit of this game, Ready or Not throws you into the boots of a man named Judge, who is the team lead for the SWAT team out at Los Sueños Police Department. And Los Sueños is very obviously just Los Angeles. It's just LA. And as I said, Judge is the leader of a SWAT team, so basically you and 4 other police officers, and you respond to various situations that the game has you go through. For example, active shooters, drug busts, terrorism, barricaded suspects, things like that. Things that SWAT would normally respond to. And yes, the game is very realistic. Like I said, it's a tactical hardcore first-person shooter, or hardcore, whatever. But the realism isn't really devised from the gameplay itself. Don't get me wrong, it is extremely realistic. I mean, I don't know, I've never died before, so I can't really say if it's realistic about that. But the realism isn't really derived from the gameplay itself. It's derived from the situations and the missions that the officers have to go through. For example, the active shooters aren't just shooting on the streets of Los Sueños. It's an active shooter with bomb threats at a college campus that you have to go through and quickly and quietly annihilate the suspects, disarm the bombs before they're able to find the other students and kill them. I'm not going to sit here and say that these missions really happened. I'm not going to sit here and say that officers go through this every single day. But I will say that officers do go through shit like this. And this game is more or less an officer's worst nightmares, the worst calls that they could have been or have been called to. Basically, the game tells the realistic story of what it's like to be a SWAT officer if the SWAT officer is just in the shittiest fucking city in the entire world and just has balls of steel and goes and does these every single fucking day. Now for this video, I'm not going to sit down and explain every single mission to you. I'm going to go through some of the more important ones or some of the ones that really stick with me, and I'm going to tell you about them because this is by far the most upsetting non-horror game that I have ever played in my entire life. So I'm going to talk about 2 of the 4 missions that are involved in the story of taking down a child pornography distribution ring. Those 4 missions are called 23 megabytes per second, the Spider, Sinuous Trail, and the Valley of Dolls. 23 megabytes a second and Sinuous Trail more or less don't have anything to do with actually taking down the physical places that are involved in the ring. They're more of connecting pieces of evidence and acting on information in order to kind of narrow in on where these other 2 missions take place. So although they aren't really hands-on in regards to taking down the ring, those other 2 missions are crucial in finding information in order to get to those missions to take down the ring. So the 2 missions that we're going to be talking about that actually have you physically go in and witness what's happening and take them down are called the Spider and Valley of Dolls. The first of the 2 missions that we're going to talk about is called the Spider, and the Spider is raiding the place in which they find the talent, in which they find and groom the children to be a part of this ring. I'm going to let the briefing for the mission actually play here so that you can get a kind of an idea of what the mission is like before we jump into it.
All right, everybody ready to roll. So, if you guys haven't been told yet, CID finally received the decrypted metadata from those marked MindJot drives that we seized a week or so ago. The data from the images on the drives corroborates information our guys have put together on a small operation running out of the row. We're heading over to 7408 Martinez Boulevard with a warrant for the arrest of George Brixley. Current intel, our target has a prior conviction for kidnapping. Did some time in Leavenworth, about 3 years. He also has a prior felony for conspiracy and sexual assault. He's not going to want to go back to jail. Brixley has firearms training, and we assume he's going to be armed. The structure we will be entering has some quirks to it. Jackson, the intel you gathered last night, what's up with this place?
He's running some sort of talent agency, round the clock, all week. Weekends are his busiest times, so minimum 1 female in the building. Likely more. Could be children, too.
Okay, so we could have kids in there. Moving on, the structure has 3 known entrances. One on the main road, side one, that goes through the reception. One on the 3rd side of the building, and one on the 4th side. We don't know much about the internal space. Floor plans we've got are from the former owners of the building, who had it set up as a clinic. Speaking of clinics, medical. We'll have RAs on scene, as well as pediatric ambulances in case there are any kids. Primary hospital is going to be YMH. Secondary, if we have multiple patients, is going to be Coastal Grove Medical Center. For radio, we're going to be operating on TAC 5 Central Tactical. Make sure your radios are set to TAC 5. Backup channel is going to be TAC 1. Okay, question time. Anyone?
What's our go for use of NFDDs?
Interior deployment is authorized based on assessed need. Bang a room if you have to. Anyone else? Perfect. All right, let's go. Remember to watch your mouth. Everything is being recorded. All the time.
So like the mission briefing says, you're looking for a man named George Brixley, who is basically the hirer. He is the scout for whoever is running this operation in order to find children and bring them in. And you're raiding a place called Brixley's Talent Time. And it's on somewhere called The Row, which is very obviously just Skid Row. Like I said, it's Los Angeles. In terms of the gameplay, the entire point of the mission is to go in and arrest George Brixley, who is obviously the main proponent of why you're there. There are also civilians and armed guards there. However, the armed guards are just kind of low-life street-level thugs with guns that were hired by George to kind of protect the building and be more of an intimidation factor rather than an actual fighting force. I say that, and that matters because in the terms of Ready or Not, there are things like this where they're just kind of low-level thugs, And then there are trained ex-military guards that you come across, and it varies on the difficulty of fighting them. For example, a low-life thug will just kind of sit there and shoot at you without cover, without running. They'll just kind of stand there and shoot. And there is even a higher chance for them to just kind of give up, drop their weapons, and put their hands in the air, and you can arrest them. When you're fighting somebody who is an ex-military or an ex-cop, and they're shooting at you, you can see their character models taking cover, shooting blindly from around corners, and they're very, very not going to give up. They will not surrender, so they usually just die. Clearing the outside courtyard isn't that bad. Like I said, they're low-level thugs, so all you have to do is kind of shout at them and they give up. But once you enter Brixley's Talent Time, that is where the gravity of the situation really weighs in on you as a person, not as judge, as you as a person playing judge. Because as you're moving through this building, there are just kind of crude drawings on the wall to make it seem a lot more warm, but in reality, all it does is make it look a lot more haunting and depraved and just disgusting and dark. It's kind of like if you took an abandoned building and drew a couple suns and balloons in it. It doesn't make it happier, it makes it more creepy. And that's exactly what they do in this mission. And like I said, there's a bunch of pictures of children in their underwear. Of course, they're all animated NPCs. If this was real, I doubt this game would be released and as high praise as it is. So you have the pictures of children as well as toys and dressing rooms and costumes and things like that. But also you have a set for where they're kind of interviewed, cribs, baby toys. So you really don't know how young these children are, the ones that aren't really pictured or depicted on the walls. And as you move throughout the facility and arrest or destroy, annihilate, obliterate these guys with guns inside of the vicinity, the building that you're in, you also come across a bunch of civilians who are all women, and you can kind of assume, because it doesn't directly tell you, but you can assume that these women were there to take their children to Brixley's Talent Time, either because of sheer ignorance or greed, or because they deserve to be bathing with toasters. The mission is relatively short. There isn't really much else to do except for annihilate everyone in the building except for George, which you have to arrest. And the building isn't that big. There isn't many hidden areas, at least that I found in my 8 times playing it. After the events of the spider take place, sometime later, you get enough information to actually raid the headquarters of where this is all happening. And in this situation, that mission is called the Valley of the Dolls. It's a very haunting name for easily one of the most disturbing missions in this entire game. I'm not going to say it's the most upsetting, but it is the most disturbing mission in this game. So far, I haven't played the DLCs, but so far, the Valley of the Dolls is one of the most disturbing missions. It's up there with like No Russian. That's how bad this mission is. So I'm going to read the story of what the mission is about, then I'm going to let the briefing play, and then I'm going to explain what you do in the mission and the things that you find. The LSPD's cybercrime team has found a lead pertaining to the person profiting from the illegal child pornography ring operating in Los Sueños. Amos Vol owns a health house in 1962 Irwin Drive, Los Clemente, which is guarded by a security company, Bolton Security. With Amos's daughter, Janie Vol, having her 18th birthday, the LSPD decide to raid the home. This level takes place on January 5th, 2026, making it the 16th mission chronologically.
Eyes and ears, guys. Here's what's going on. This is a large roundup of a potential heavy hitter and the men working for him. This isn't going to be some fucking stroll in the park, boys. We've got an arrest warrant for Amos Vol and a search warrant as well for evidence of the production of pornographic material involving minors.
The adult film guy?
The very same. Our cybercrime team has traced numerous wires from an offshore account that were being sent right to Brixley Talent Time every Sunday for the last 6 years. The shell company that holds this account was established in Bucharest, Romania, which happens to be where Amos's wife is from. She slipped up, and we tied a transaction from the shell company to Amos's personal account. That's about as much as we needed to get the all clear.
Boss, what's the risk level here?
Well, these are definitely going to be the same guys that we saw when we went for Brixley. Lots of ex-military, probably ex-cop. They're well armed, and if the talks the dicks had with them are anything to go by, these guys are also well paid. Threat level is going to be high.
What's the entry?
Single point of entry on the road that leads to his home, 1962 Irwin Drive. We're up in the hills of Los Clemente. That means a lot of rich people, bunch of movie stars and directors. Keep an eye on what's past your target if you have to get in a gunfight, because those guys would love a chance to sue the department if they caught some property damage. I should mention, it gets even more complicated. We've got surveillance on the target location now. They're reporting it looks like there might be a birthday party starting for Vol's teenage daughter. I know. Ordinarily, we'd never choose to serve this warrant right now with that going on, but time is of the essence. Somehow the bank's also tipped off police in Romania, who, despite our requests to wait, are set to seize his assets there as soon as the business day starts there. Once that happens, Vol is going to be tipped off and any evidence at the house will be turned into a big pile of ashes.
Are we going to run into the same problem as the last time where the DA was parked right out the front of the house?
No, this place has some tight security. They'll know we're in there the minute you guys step onto Irwin Drive. Won't be any vehicles blocking the way, fucking up our shit. All right, let's roll. We're going to be running on our regular channels. Main is TAC 1, backup is TAC 4 Northern. Let's go.
A few side notes before we actually talk about this mission. This mission, Valley of Dolls, is without a doubt the hardest mission in the entire game for one reason and one reason only. The CQB on this map is insane. So first of all, this is a 3-story house with many bar areas, hidden corners, closets, cabinets that they can see you through, but you can barely see them through. And you have to clear every single room. And there are like 25, 26 enemies on this map, and they all hide. And it is a fucking nightmare. Not only that, but the entire house is completely surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows. So they can see you from the outside, and they will shoot at you from the outside. And in order to get down into the lower levels of the house, because I start personally on the top floor of the house and I work my way down, and then I clear out the outside area. In order to traverse down to the lower levels of the house, you have to walk down the stairs that are in plain view of the outside, so free shots for the enemies that are on the outside. Walking across a bridged balcony inside of the house with enemies on both sides taking shots at you, and yes, their bullets can go through walls and the floor, so you're just getting hit all the time. So like the briefing says, you are raiding their house on their daughter's 18th birthday, so there is a party, which means more civilians, which also means more armed security for you to fight. And you can start the mission by either going straight through the front door or making your way down to the bottom level and clearing out the bottom all the way to the top. I prefer clearing a house first, so I go from the front down to the bottom, and then I clear out the outside area. Clearing the top floor of the house is relatively easy. There are only 4 rooms and the staircase leading down, but in the second room on the left, there are a bunch of DVDs on the floor and on the bed. And if you take a step back and look at the bed, there is a camera pointing to the bed and a bunch of professional lighting, indicating that this is where they shoot some of the movies. It is also important to add that Amos Vol is a very prominent figure in directing adult films. So I can't sit here and say that he films minors there, even though there's a bunch of DVDs on the floor that when you go and investigate, you find that they are videos depicting minors. How I'm going to do this is first floor, second floor, third floor. Okay? First, second, third. Not first, second, third. We're going to go backwards. So first floor we just cleared. And as you move down to the second floor, you have to go down stairs that are right next to windows. And you're just getting shot at the entire time. And it sucks. That sucks so bad. You know how many times I've died there? In terms of the gameplay, the second floor isn't anything too crazy. I mean, yeah, you walk across a literal bridge and you're just getting shot at from both sides, and there's a stairwell that they can see you from, and there's a bunch of big rooms and the bar area and the DJ area and stuff like that. But in terms of the story of why you are there to take down this ring, there isn't really much on the second floor, but it's when we get down to the third floor or the first floor, depending on how douchey you want to be. The first floor is where we find and where the game kind of just kicks you in the fucking nuts. Once you get down to the third floor and make your way towards the back, you find a room that is playing a video of it. I mean, what you see is static because obviously they're not going to show it in the game, but you hear it. And it sucks. It sucks. I'm not going to lie. That sucks. As you're clearing out the first floor, you find Amos Full kind of frantically grabbing hard drives and throwing them into an incinerator. And so you have to arrest him before he can get to that point. And I think he does it at around the 10-minute mark. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's a lot of time. No, it ain't. That is not a lot of time in this game. I swear to you, it's not a lot of time. You have to get there in time, and if you don't, you basically just find the incinerator filled with a bunch of hard drives that you can't recover, which doesn't really affect the mission, but it sucks to not get there in time to catch this motherfucker. You know what I mean? And the first time I played this, and if you've never played it, you might think that that's it, but there is a basement area that you have to go outside of the house and around and down to get to. And once you get into there, it's just, it sucks. I don't know. There's like, I'm going to say it sucks a lot because this mission just fucking, it sucks. It just sucks. I mean, it's a great mission. It sucks. There are two ways to get down into the basement area. The first way is through the party area and down and around. The second way, the way that I always go because it's just simply easier to clear, is around the side of the house and down through kind of like a hidden gate. It's not hidden, but if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. And once you get down to the basement area, there are 3 different rooms that you have to look through. The first room on your right is a room in which they develop film. So you walk into this red tinted room and there's just hundreds of pictures of kids on the wall in their underwear, posing, or different parts of their body, like their head or half of their head or their feet. And it's just it's disgusting to see. And you have to sit there and you have to interact with things to like collect evidence. And you're just sitting looking around and you're like, oh my fucking God. From that room, if you go in through the only other door in that room, you will emerge into a blackened room with 2 portraits of Amos's daughter on them. And there's a bunch of writing on the wall, and it's Amos's daughter from when she was clearly very, very young. And there's things like smooth, virgin, beautiful. It's so fucking creepy and disturbing. And the final room you visit in this mission is directly across from the film development room. And it's a hole in the ground with a bunch of barrels. At first glance, it doesn't really look like much, but if you take a closer look, there are a bunch of child toys and little dresses for girls, and you can kind of assume that after they're done with the children, they murder them and put them into barrels and then bury them under the house. And then the mission ends. And you basically successfully take care of the mission. And that's it for the child pornography distribution ring side of this game. Like I said, this is one of the heaviest games that I've ever played in my life because of the realism in terms of the situations that the police officers have to deal with. I'm not going to sit here and say that this happened in real life, but things like this do happen. And this game does a very good job of capturing nightmares and putting it out there for people that are not police officers to see. Beautifully done. The third mission I want to talk about is the reason why a lot of people do not like this game, why this game is so controversial. And in my eyes, this is probably the most realistic mission in the game. And this mission is called The Elephant. And the reason this mission is so controversial is because the situation is there are active shooters on a college campus. This is the only mission in Ready or Not in which you cannot approach slow. It's always go, go, go. You do not stop this entire mission for two reasons. First reason is that there are active shooters that are actively hunting hostages and killing them once they find them. And two, there are bombs. They placed bombs in the college. So you have to find them and disarm them. And no matter how many times you play this, they're always in different areas of the map. So you have to maneuver your way, just destroying these fucking asshole active shooters while also listening for the beeps of the bomb and running up and disarming them, as sometimes you're getting shot yourself. In my opinion, this mission has an extra suck factor to it, because as you're maneuvering through the school, clearing out classrooms, looking for the active shooters, you find college students, like people that survived the active shooter, and they're crying and they're begging you for help and they're screaming, and you're screaming at them to get their hands in the air because you don't know who the active shooter is. You don't know what the situation is. You're just responding. So as soon as they get it together, you have to restrain them because you obviously don't know who the active shooter is. They could be the active shooter just acting innocent. So you have to restrain them for protocol, and then you move on. But as soon as you move on, there's an active shooter on the other side of the hallway, and they ignore you, walk right into the classroom, and just execute everybody. And that fucking sucks. That fucking sucks. Like I said, this mission is controversial for a reason. One, it's depicting a school shooter. It's depicting a school bombing. And it's one of the only missions where the hostiles are actively hunting the civilians and kill them. So you need to be extra vigilant while you're clearing the area, because if you fucking slip up, they will slip into the room and execute everybody. Oh, and at the same time, there's bombs that are going to go off. So you need to go off and disable those. This mission sucks. Like I said, this is possibly the most realistic mission in the entire game. And that's why it sucks so much. It's very, very sad. Which leads us into, in my opinion, the saddest mission, the most upsetting mission in the entire game. And that one is called Neon Tomb.
Okay, this is going to be quick and dirty. We've got a suspected terrorist incident unfolding down at the Neon Club. Calls are flooding in of an active shooting inside the club. Calls have confirmed the gunmen shot through the crowds on their way in. A Watch 3 car from Midtown Division was driving past and confirmed the building looks to be secured down, with large vehicles blocking the exit points, while the entrance seems to be barricaded from the inside. Counterterrorism has confirmed the Hand has already claimed responsibility for the attack. We've also had it confirmed by the cyber team that several shooters are live streaming the attack. Feeds are being cut, but there are channels on the web that operate beyond regular control. We've got LSPD and paramedics en route, and all local hospitals have been placed on alert to receive victims. There's some big-name acts performing tonight, and we all know that Neon isn't adverse to stretching its capacity limit beyond regulation. Don't kid yourselves, this is going to be a bloodbath, so I want you all in there, shutting these assholes down.
What do we know about the situation inside?
Not much. We've got conflicting numbers, but we know at least 4 gunmen are armed with automatic weapons. Early studies of the live stream footage also have at least one wearing what looks to be an explosive vest. They won't hesitate to kill civilians, so we need to stop them before they can do more damage. We can't start saving people until these guys are neutralized. This isn't going to be pretty, so get with your elements and get ready to move.
The terrorist group, The Hand, has committed a mass shooting at the Neon nightclub in response to U.S. airstrikes targeting their shelters in northern Yemen. D Platoon, or the squad in which you're leading, so Judge and then the 4 other officers, basically who you play as the entire game, has been dispatched to bring an end to the massacre. The mission takes place on April 19th, 2025, making it chronologically the second mission in the story. The attack killed approximately 60 people. In my opinion, Neon Tomb is the most upsetting and realistic thing that I've ever seen in a game when it comes to what would happen in terms of tragedy. Not in terms of the shooting itself, but what happens as you traverse the map. Let me explain. So the mission starts with you immediately outside of the nightclub, and you are already surrounded by just bodies of these innocent people that were gunned down at the nightclub. Also, a thing about Ready or Not is that it gives the officers personality. Like, they're not just NPCs in the game. Like, the dialogue that the developers gave them makes them feel more human, because as you're passing by these bodies, they're just like, fuck, they fucking killed them all. Oh my God. And as you are passing these dead bodies, you just see every single phone in sight ringing, which adds to the realism factor of, if this happened, I know somebody at that club. Let me call them to make sure that they're okay. And dude, it's so fucking haunting to be walking into this nightclub where an active shooter took place and just seeing a bunch of dead people's phones ringing. It's so unsettling. Once you enter the club, you are just met with neon lights and just loud music. Just picture a club. There, you got it. That's what it is. And as you're clearing this club, the music is blasting the whole time. The lights are just strobing in your face, and you can't make out that shadow at the end of the hallway. Is that a civilian? Is that a terrorist? What is that? What? I don't know. So you have to approach it, and if you're wrong, you either kill a civilian or you are dead. So you have to be extra vigilant while you're walking towards the shadow, and it turns out, oh, it's just a chair. This level fucks me up every single time. After about 5 to 10 minutes of clearing out this club with loud music blurring in your ears and the lights just strobing in your face, you get tired of it. So you make your way out to the main dance floor, to the DJ booth, to turn off the music. And you look out over the dance floor, and there are just bodies piled up in the middle of the dance floor. And you're just looking at them, and you're like, oh my fucking God. I'm pretty sure one of the officers just goes, holy fuck. And once I turned off that music, I immediately regretted it, because the blaring music is replaced with the sound of just dozens of phones ringing. And it is the most somber thing I've ever seen in a game. The mixture of phones ringing, people yelling, and women crying is just the most heartbreaking and haunting experience that I've seen in a game thus far. The entire mission is clearing out the club, eliminating any threats, looking for any civilians and getting them out of there or restraining them, and looking for a specific individual who is the leader of the Hand and the one who illustrated the attack against the nightclub. How I play the mission is that if I see you with a gun, you die. That's it. I just put like 13 rounds into you, and then I move on. I let my officers cuff the body and take the evidence. I move on, and I'm just lighting up anybody that has a gun. And then anybody who doesn't, I'm like, you better move, bro. And then that's how I play that mission, because it is so upsetting. Does that make me a bad guy? Maybe. But you need to play that mission and tell me how you feel, because holy shit, one of the most haunting, upsetting, disturbing missions I've ever played in my entire life from any game ever. Again, I haven't played the DLC. Maybe there are more missions in the DLC that are just as good, if not better. In other words, suck just as much or suck even worse than the missions in the base game, the vanilla game of Ready or Not. I don't know. I haven't played them. If you're into hardcore tactical first-person shooters, I highly suggest Ready or Not, because you can either play it alone, like me, so I can get the full immersion and experience of the game, or if you want to, you can load up with 4 of your friends and play Ready or Not as a group of 5, and it's a great time. Overall, I love this game. It's one of my favorite games I have ever played in my entire life, and it's only, 4 years old? 3 years old? Amazing game. Highly suggested. Would never not recommend it to anybody, except for sensitive people, because obviously the themes in this game are very heavy. Hopefully you guys check out the game, but like I said, this is one of the most upsetting games that I've ever played in my entire life, so I figured I'd talk about it because I love this game and I love talking about things like this. If you have any other topics that you guys would like me to consider talking about, whether it be horror, upsetting, or just anything, really, leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you liked the video. Dislike it if you didn't like it. I don't need a comment saying you hate the video. I get it. Just hit the dislike button and put the fucking fries in the bag, dude. Jesus Christ. But anyway, if you get nothing else for me, I got nothing else for you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye. You're still here again. Go to bed.